lot of people believe marijuana is a harmless and natural life-enhancing substance with little or no negative impact. However, there are often unmentioned consequences to marijuana's growing presence in our society. And we need to look no further than the workplace to see what is playing out in our nation's workforce. Jo McGuire lives in Colorado, and she is an expert on the consequences of legalized marijuana on the state of Colorado, as well as marijuana's impact on the workforce. She is available to present to your organization, and we will provide her contact information at the conclusion of today's show. I'm Chris Wolfe, and welcome to the National Marijuana Initiative. Jo, what are the toughest challenges employers in Colorado are faced with since the legalization of marijuana?
Chris, the toughest challenges that employers are facing is finding a qualified employee to pass the pre-employment drug screen.
So if marijuana is legal and somebody uses marijuana on their personal time, why is that a problem if they test positive?
Sure, well, we do have a law in the books that says an employer cannot punish an employee for anything they do on their own time. However, there's a caveat at the end that says, as long as it does not impact their ability to work safely.
Have businesses actually moved their offices to other states or making other significant changes because of problems they're now having?
We have had some cases where businesses have pulled like franchise locations out of the state. We have some cases where small businesses have simply relocated altogether outside of Colorado. And then we also have some cases where large corporations wanted to come in and considered Colorado as a location to set up large plants or factories and chose not to.
What is the financial impact of employee substance use to an employer, and how is that calculated?
There are studies that show, Chris, that a small business owner can lose up to $7,000 a month in lost revenue. And how we calculate that is lack of productivity, employee turnover, absenteeism, tardiness, injuries, accidents. The employee who uses marijuana has 35% more industrial accidents, 55% more injuries than the employee who chooses not to. Last year I was on a tour of a large marijuana grow and manufacturing operation where the owner bragged that he had just had raw cannabis returned from the lab, over 30% THC. We used to hear that THC couldn't even get that high in raw cannabis, but due to chemicals and all types of enhancements now in growing and technology, we're seeing stronger and stronger potencies. And then you have concentrates and edibles and vaping cartridges, which get up to 60, 70, 80, and 90% THC. If we were talking about the type of cannabis that existed back in the 60s and 70s, you and I probably wouldn't be having this conversation. It would likely be irrelevant. But because of these higher potency products and the difference that it's making in how people react to it and the length of time that they are impaired, it is a real issue. It's no longer just a little pot.
Now, even though marijuana is now legal to use in the state of Colorado, employers aren't tolerating its use during working hours, are they?
No, and that is something that Colorado State was very strong on. In fact, most states that have passed legal marijuana for recreational use maintain that employers do not have to tolerate use within the workplace.
Jo, now that marijuana is legal in a number of states, what does the future of our workforce look like?
I think there will be many challenges. For instance, the aerospace industry in the community in which I live has actually put out notices to the local high schools to say to the students, if you want a future in the aerospace industry, you'll stay clean and drug-free.
Does legalized marijuana actually equate to increased use by employees both on and off the job?
It has equated to increased adult use in all age categories, but we see the sharpest spike in use amongst young people at the college age level.
What advice do you have for business owners in states where marijuana use is legal?
First of all, hold the line. Review your workplace drug and alcohol policy. then communicate the policy to your employees and create that culture of being a drug-free workplace. And then thirdly, you really must enforce that policy through a consistent drug and alcohol testing program.
Is it true that in Colorado, marijuana use is so widespread that businesses have had to start hiring out-of-state employees who can pass the pre-employment drug screening tests?
There are employers who have stated publicly that when they receive federal dollars for a specific job, like repairing bridges and roadways, for those jobs, they must be drug-free under the Federal Safe and Drug-Free Workplace Act. They have stated that they have had to seek employees from out of state in order to fill those positions.
I read that the trucking industry has been affected greatly by legalized marijuana. So what makes marijuana one of the top legal issues facing the trucking industry?
You know, Chris, where I think that comes from is that we've had a few companies in Colorado who have said these are our challenges in hiring drivers with a commercial driver's license, which we refer to as CDL driver's license. One company says for every employee they have to hire, they interview 75 people before they can find one who will pass the test. Another company says it took them 3 months to find 2 qualified drivers who could pass the drug test.
What would you suggest for employers who are having trouble attracting and retaining a competent, drug-free workforce?
You know, there are 2 employers in southern Colorado, Pueblo specifically, and Pueblo is a good epicenter of the recreational marijuana industry with retail stores and, you know, a lot of the business happening, booming in Pueblo. And for instance, we have one employer, Swordfiger Construction, where the owner, Keith Swordfiger, says, we kept our policies in place. We kept communication with our employees. They understood what the expectations were. We never wavered, and we, quite frankly, don't have a problem. And he said people in the community who know their reputation, they understand that if you want to work with them, you don't do drugs.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
For traveling here and sharing time with us today. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We hope our interview today with Joe McGuire has expanded your thinking about the issues and potential consequences surrounding marijuana's impact on the workplace, not just from an employer's perspective, but from the point of view of the employee as well. We've learned that today's high-potency marijuana and the issue of legalization creates many challenges to employers and employees alike. People who live in states where marijuana use is legal must understand that employers have the right to set expectations regarding marijuana in the workplace, and employers have a right to protect the safety of their workplaces. In all fairness to employees, employers are encouraged to review their workplace drug policy, clearly communicate that policy to their personnel, and then be consistent with the application of that rule. Joe McGuire is available to speak to your organization. So for more information, please reach out to the National Marijuana Initiative. I'm Chris Wolfe, and thank you for joining us.